That is what we do in our Facing Race unit. And as we reflect tonight on the progress that has or has not been made, we are joined by Michael McPherson, Executive Director of Veterans for Peace, excuse me, and also the former Executive Director of South Seattle Emerald. Michael, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Alexis Harris, a professor of sociology at the University of Washington. Dr. Harris, thank you for being here as well. So I just want to start with where you both think we are right now, 5 years after the murder of George Floyd. Dr. Harris, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
How are you feeling?
Well, it's a heavy moment, right? To reflect back, to read what was written 5 years ago, to think about who he might have been, where his family is, to think about our communities, and that pain is still there, to think about what has been done, what hasn't been done, and then we have this larger umbrella that feels a really heavy weight of the federal government putting pressure on our communities. So it feels like a heavy moment.
And Michael, what about you?
Well, I definitely agree with what was just said. I think also there's been a lot of community activism over the past really 10 years with Trayvon Martin being killed, Michael Brown being, it's a continuum. So I think there's things in place community-wise that weren't in place before. I think there's a higher understanding of the issues within the community, a lot of mutual support and things of that nature. But this political moment, the larger political moment, puts us in a very, very difficult situation. So we have to gear ourselves up for the continuing struggle.
You can feel the weight of all of that. There was a recent study by the Pew Research Center. I found it really interesting. It found that only about half the country supports now the Black Lives Matter movement, down 15%. And most adults, 72%, say that the focus on race after the killing of George Floyd did not lead to any improvements for the Black community. 72% feel like things are not better. Your reaction?
Well, I think there's been incremental change. We've seen small policy movement around holding police accountable. We've learned that we can successfully prosecute police who murder people in the streets unfairly. So there have been changes, mostly now at the local level, around banning the use of chokeholds, around holding police officers who are standing by accountable for not engaging, for trying to de-escalate. So we've seen changes in our state legislatures and policies on the ground within cities, but it doesn't feel like it's been a whole lot of movement. It still feels heavy.
And also, just this month, the DOJ announced it's dropping investigations in cities like Minneapolis, Oklahoma City, and other places where there had been ongoing investigations after the DOJ found that there was reason to look into these police departments. And consent decrees are also being dropped too. I mean, look at all the cities here where there had been ongoing investigations, and now the federal government thinks, oh, we don't need to look into this.
But fortunately, the mayors in many of these cities are saying, no, we are going to continue and moving forward with changes to our policies and practices.
And police departments also.
Right.
The messaging, though, still, Michael, of that kind of attitude coming from the federal government where police don't necessarily need to be held accountable, or that's not where we should be looking in terms of improvements. Your feelings on that?
Yeah, well, that's not surprising. I was part of the Ferguson Rebellion. I was co-chair of the Don't Shoot Coalition, and one of the messages that I brought is that in order to have sustained change, it has to happen locally, that you cannot rely on the federal government. They're not going to come in and save you. And administrations change, right? So, but we, in our community, we don't change. So if we want to have the change we want, then we have to make it happen here. And we can't rely on the federal government. So it's not surprising, and I don't see that as the way to go in the first place.
Who said be the change you want to see? I can't remember. But that's something I often think about, right?
That's right.
So one of the things that we are witnessing is the erosion of DEI, as you all know. 5 years ago, there seemed to be a renewed effort and commitment to increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now we're seeing companies pull back from their DEI initiatives and the government eliminate DEI on the federal level. So what do you think psychologically is the impact of that?
Well, the term DEI today has really become a racial slur. I really think that's how it's been used with some folks in broader government, and it's not. And so I always encourage us to think about, what does DEI stand for? Diversity, right? Racial ethnic, LGBTQ,
economic,
rural housing,
right.
veteran status, right? Differing abilities. So DEI is really all of us, equity, about equitable opportunities for all of those groups listed to be successful and healthy in life.
I want the opportunities you want.
Exactly.
And you want.
And recognizing that we've had different barriers
right.
to get there. So we need to do the extra work to eliminate those barriers. And then inclusiveness. I want to be able to show up with my hair the way I want to wear my hair, right? With wearing the clothes, speaking the way I speak. So that's what DEI is. And so, yes, they can attack it. They can change it into a racial slur, but we can still keep doing the work within our institutions. We have to keep doing the work.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I agree about how they've taken the DEI as well as woke, you know, the word woke. And one thing our communities really need to not let them do that within our communities. Don't change how we see what these words mean, because we are the ones that created, for example, what woke means, right? And I feel like I'm always trying to wake up, so I want to say that.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yes.
Because I think I would love to hear, and I think y'all would too. How do you define woke? What does it mean for you?
Well, originally, it meant for black people to be aware of what was going on around them, you know, so stay awake, you know. But for me, at this point, because things do change, because that was many years ago, it means to think about how I treat people, you know, and the impact I have on a person. So when we're talking about, let's just say the trans community, which seems to be a big push button for people, do I need to make this person feel bad by not using the pronouns that they ask me? How's that going to hurt me? You know. So I feel like being woke is. I'm a Christian. I feel like being woke is being a person who cares. So I think that's pretty simple.
And how would you define it?
I think it's knowing our history, knowing the systemic problems that we've had, and not allowing people to change that history. Like, yes, different groups will have different viewpoints of history, but not allowing one story, right? Be woke, know our history and that lens, and how we can work together to fight the current state of oppression, I think. So being woke, yes. I childish Gambino, I still listen to the song, right? Yeah, I'm gonna stay woke. We all need to.
I wanted to show you just one more bit of research that I was able to find, also from Pew, reflecting the numbers. 54% of those polled said that about the same, about 33% believe that conditions for black people are worse. 54% think they're about the same as 5 years ago. And 11%, only 11% feel like things are better, that things are in a better place. Were you surprised by that?
No, because I think we still know that we could wake up any time and see another person being killed in the street. That fear, that legacy of the United States is still here, right? And so I think, and the economy right now, and the attacks on us, right? The attacks on DEI and the policies, but it really feels heavy, like people who are different, right? So people who are African American, Indigenous, LGBTQ, transgender, you mentioned, we all feel that weight of being under attack. So it's not surprising that people don't feel like things have changed.
Yeah. I just want to say, especially right now, right, where there is a concerted effort to pull us apart as a society. So why wouldn't the most vulnerable people through our history not feel vulnerable, you know, so especially right now.
I want you to leave us with some reasons to be optimistic and hopeful looking ahead, because if we don't have hope, we don't have anything, right? So, Michael, you first.
Okay. Well, one thing that has changed is the Supreme Court recently put forth an understanding that you have to look at more than just the moment when a police officer is afraid and they end up shooting someone. You have to look at the totality. They changed the standard of when a person could bring unlawful death. And that actually is a big change. That'll have an impact in individual people's lives. But beyond that, I think, and I'm just saying this as our history as black people, we've always come together and figured out how to take those next steps. And this is one of those moments for that. And lastly, we have a broader and deeper coalition of people across a spectrum of colors, a spectrum of ideas about making this country better. So I would ask the white people, particularly, to stand up at this moment and engage with your other white brothers and sisters, because if we're going to bring about the change that we want, that kind of engagement's got to happen.
And I'm going to give you the final word. What do you think?
I agree exactly with what you said. Our ancestors have gone through much worse than this moment, and we stand on their shoulders.
That's right.
You know, and so if they've gone through it and they've worked for us to be here, it's also the acknowledgement that this is the struggle for a lifetime. For my kids, unfortunately, are going to have to struggle in this country because it's always been a struggle, but that struggle's made this country better. And so the past, whose shoulders I stand on, gives me optimism. The future, knowing that I need to pace myself, and also the present. Like, I'm not going to let anybody take my joy. I'm going to be happy.
Don't let anyone take your joy.
Right.
I'm going to keep working, put my head down, do the work, but I'm still going to enjoy this life because we deserve to, and that's part of what they want to do.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm
And we have the right to.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
To both of you, I am so grateful. Dr. Alexis Harris and Michael McPherson, we so appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.